one and only Dick in the guidance office.
I can't believe you said that.
She's so smart.
It has been our joy and pleasure to work with you. From the bottom of our hearts, we want you to know that you're irreplaceable. And we will miss your humor, your warmth, your caring, and your support, and your friendship. We wish you a long and healthy retirement with your at-home wife, Denise, and your grandchildren. And may the days ahead be filled with love and happy memories of the times you shared together. Lenape will never be the same without you, and we wish you all the best.
I'm not going to top all of that. It's funny about my nickname, though. I get a lot of that. There's not many of us left. I think as popular as Dick and Jane were, I think the name kind of phased out by the 70s. I mean, have you ever, how many Dicks do you run into? Wait a second. Sometimes I'll say to, I'll say to Denise, some kind of odd name will come up in conversation or on the TV or something, and I'll say, what kind of name is that? Every time she says to me, what kind of name is Dick? I say old English, both first and last. Anyway, that wasn't in my speech.
You're done, thank you.
Elaine, so I called up Elaine a couple months ago. How long can I talk for? She said, as long as you want. Now she's over here doing this to me. Whatever your speech is, cut it in half. I'll tell you what I am going to do. I'm going to cut Tony Grillo out of it. Well, that was good, Tony. I know where you are. That was good. The whole guidance counselor, no skills, et cetera, comes right out of a Saturday Live skit, I think. Oh, golly. Where do we go from here? I want to say congratulations to my fellow retirees, Janet, Glenn, Sharon, and Walt. Let me formally welcome you all to retirement land, where your week will never be the same. Instead of the standard work week and weekend, from now on you will enjoy a week of 6 Saturdays and 1 Sunday. Long lunches are normal, coffee breaks are never ending, tied shoes are considered formal attire, and counting pennies is an everyday activity. Now, if you are feeling anxious or questioning about what you may be doing all week in your retirement, stop worrying. Last fall I had the same kind of anxiety going through my head. I went to Tony Paciullo. I said, Tony, what am I going to do when I retire? What am I going to do all day, all week? His answer was very simple. Mr. Jackson, you're going to stay home and do nothing. I'm trying, Tony. So, Monday through Friday, you'll do nothing, and on Saturday and Sunday, you will rest. Here with me tonight is my wife, Denise. Many of you know Denise. And thank you, Denise, for your 24 years of support, encouragement, and understanding. Thank you for putting up with my long hours, my grumpy moods at the end of a stressful day, and for being my #1 tech support. And those of you in the guidance department know how much support I need when it comes to technology. I couldn't keep up with it. That was one of the reasons I left in January. I look forward to sharing many long lunches, endless coffee breaks, more time with our sons and grandsons, and many trips to all of those destinations that we've never had time for. Also here tonight are my sons, Daniel and Jason. Daniel lives in Brooklyn, works in Manhattan, where by day he is a facilities manager for a talent marketing firm on 5th Avenue. And by night, he's a lead guitar player in his Brooklyn band, I Am the Third. Just saw them a couple weeks ago at the Bitter End. Maybe some of you remember the Bitter End when it was known as a coffee house. It hasn't changed in 50 years. Jason lives in Eastern PA, where by day he is an innovative architect with Merck, and by night an improv comedian with his improv group, Out of Order. And I think they're actually have one last show this year coming up later in May at the Dover Little Theater.
Thanks for the plug.
Just in case you had nothing to do. And I did manage to coerce at least one of my 4 siblings to join me tonight. And that's my brother Don, who drove all the way from Mount Freedom, New Jersey. Thanks for coming, guys. It means a lot. But as I stand before you tonight, I consider myself a very lucky man, a very fortunate man, who has been blessed in so many ways. Several blessings in particular stand out. My loving family, my good health, physical anyway, and my career at LVR. I've been so fortunate to have had the pleasure to work with all of you over the past 24 years. The Lenape Valley professional and support staff are second to none. Your professionalism, your commitment, your dedication, and your companionship have made my years at LVR both rewardable and enjoyable. But not only have I been blessed with this opportunity, as I look back to the events leading up to my hire in April of 1990, it seems that my career at LVR was almost meant to be. And we were watching a Twilight Zone episode. This was a movie musical. You see, prior to my move to New Jersey in the fall of 1987, and long before I even knew that Lenape Valley existed, I would make regular trips to New Jersey to visit with family living in both Morristown and Lake Apacon. One of my relatives, an avid jogger, and myself would often enjoy jogging on Saturday, Sunday mornings on one of his numerous regular jogging routes in the area. On one such morning, he drove us to a nearby high school to run on the track. As we pulled into the school's driveway and drove past the high school now to my right, I remember thinking to myself, this looks like it would be a great place to work. Then, before we climbed over the chain link fence to run on the track, I did check the statute of limitations on this project. I asked my relative if it was okay with the school to be doing this. He replied that he usually never had a problem, although occasionally a large man wearing a floppy, wide-brimmed hat and driving a golf cart would give him some trouble. And that was my first impression of Lenape Valley. Although even when I left that morning, I still didn't know what the name of the school was because there was never a sign down there in those days. The only way you knew the name of the school is if you did drive around the circular drive under the portico. It's the only way you could see the name of the school from the street or the parking lot. Now, the New Jersey Department of Education played an unexpected role in my hire at LVR. Shortly after my move to New Jersey, I was offered a guidance position at a Paccon middle school. Notwithstanding that portion of the interview process with one of its guidance counselors, who had no less than 3 over-the-counter medications displayed prominently on her desk. I'll never forget that. I couldn't believe it. I thought to myself, is she trying to tell me something about working at the Paccon middle school or about a career in guidance? Well, I did accept the offer, and all was going well with the paperwork until the principal asked to see my New Jersey guidance certification. When I told him that I was only certified in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, he expressed disbelief that he was only learning about this now. While myself, on the other hand, was wondering if he had even read my resume. I was then informed that I could not be hired without the certification. And then to add insult to injury, despite having a master's degree in guidance, certifications in 2 states, and 5 years in the field, the State Department of Education deemed it necessary that I needed 9 additional graduate credits before I could be certified in New Jersey. Apparently, the State Department had other plans for me that did not include Paccon Middle School. But I found it ironic many years later, late in my career at LVR, when we started to accept choice students into Lenape, that I registered a large number of students from the Paccon Middle School. So it kind of came around full circle. So began my interim job with the National Park Service in Morristown while I was going to school for those 9 credits. Fast forward to the spring of 1990, and there it was in the Sunday Star Ledger one morning, posting for immediate opening and guidance at Lenape Valley Regional High School, the very school whose track I had illegally run on several years earlier. Now, despite my excitement, I did find myself at that time wavering about submitting my resume, was really enjoying my work with the Park Service. Well, I wound up wavering to the point where that opportunity had come and gone. And yet my hire at LVR was meant to be, remember? How could this have happened? I asked myself. But several weeks later, again to my surprise, the very same guidance opening was reposted. Could this have been divine intervention on my behalf this time? Or was the Department of Education making amends for those 9 credits? I submitted my resume, began the interview process, all was going well. The counselors did not have over-the-counter medications prominently displayed on their desks. And I was invited back for a second interview with all of the administrators. As the interview wound down, I felt really confident, until it was either, I think, Frank Stars or Fred Manuel asked me one final question. So who's your team? Yankees? Mets? Uh-oh. I had to be careful here with my reply, as I now felt the interview hinged upon this one response. So rather than mention my favorite team by name, I felt a softer response would be warranted. And so I replied, well, there's this little team up in Boston. And despite those very same groans that I just heard, there's a few of us Red Sox fans around. I was subsequently hired to start April 1st, 1990. And no, I was not the April Fool's joke for Lenape Valley. Since that day, I've had so many great memories of my years at LVR. I remember how welcoming the guidance staff was on that first day. Frank Starr, Sharon Torriello, Mary Socio, Phoebe Bernstein, Eddie Bensavengo, and Kathy Matakata. Sharon and Mary were the greatest mentors for me as I settled into my new school. Kathy Matakata put me right in my place. As those of you who know Kathy would. Smiling politely, she said to me, "Watch your step, mister," or something to that effect. And even as the years went by, as names and faces in the department changed, it always remained just the best place to work, with the likes of Paul DeRupo, Janice Chrissy, and Elaine Frieda keeping us all on our toes and providing lots of laughs. Thanks to all of you in the department over the years for all your support, for your companionship, and especially the many laughs that we have shared. One more incident stands out in my mind for those early years. My apologies to Doug Nutter when I mention this. It's when I met my first Fritzky. That would be Maggie, the eldest of 12 siblings. She shared with me some of her experiences of growing up in such a large family and how the family coped with everyday routine. When I asked her about her college plans, she told me that she would only be applying to West Virginia. Well, now I felt compelled to have the college talk with her, and specifically that she might want to expand her list of schools to include some named colleges, which would later reflect well on her resume. I was curious as to why she was being so restrictive. Maggie then told me that her high school boyfriend was attending West Virginia. So now, I had to have the high school romance. Specifically this time about the slim chances of these high school relationships ever working out. After all, was this the best reason to be selecting a college? Well, as it turned out, Maggie proved me wrong. So much for that master's degree, now the 3 certifications, and now 5 years and 1 month in the field. Both she and her high school boyfriend, our own Doug Vetter, both had successful careers at West Virginia, and as most of you know, are now married with children. But, as for myself, after meeting with Maggie that day, I vowed that I would do everything in my power to remain at Lenape Valley until the last of the 12 Fritzkies graduated. Which indeed did happen just last June, just a few months prior to my own retirement. In fact, many people last fall asked me, why are you leaving January 1st? Why aren't you going to complete the school year? I would just simply tell them, because all the Fritzkies have graduated. I didn't really say those things. And so after 24 years, 4 superintendents, 5 principals, 6 guidance directors, and 12 Fritzkies, I stand before you 5 months into my retirement. Just like at the Oscars, I can't begin to thank everyone, but thank you, everyone. But I would like to express my deepest thanks and gratitude to Frank Starrs, Jim Riccobono, Fred Manuel, and Joe Stracco for having the confidence in me to offer me this opportunity to embark on what became such an incredible journey. And oh, by the way, what was the real reason that I knew my hire was meant to be? It's because I've always been a Patriot fan, long before I even knew of the Lenape Valley Patriots. Thank you, Lenape, for 24 awesome years. You will be missed.